Hey there, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club. So sit back, buckle up, enjoy.
Get down to business. We got to get the Seattle perspective, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So Seattle, who's second in the table, has
First.
Aren't they first?
First.
I don't know.
I'm
sorry. I went to my phone. They were second in the table. Maybe they were tied for number one. I don't know.
Actually, they only tied last night, so it's possible they could have lost points.
Last time we disagreed with Google, Dave, we were wrong. So
I know.
I'm going by
so Mikey Dobbs and I have been discussing this. So one of the things that's weird about MLS, and maybe you can comment. So most leagues around Europe and whatever, everybody plays on the same day. Typically Saturday, occasionally Sunday, right? And so the table gets updated, every weekend. But MLS, they have games all the time or whatever, so it's not synchronous. And so somebody will play on a Tuesday and somebody will play on a Wednesday. And so when you look at the table, it's always what we call a live table, which is whoever, whatever the points are at this moment. And you can look and you don't know whether, Cincinnati's playing on a random Tuesday and they happen to, get points. So
yeah, they put Sporting ahead of Seattle.
Okay.
They had 8 wins and Seattle's only got 7, probably.
Yeah, because they played they have a game in hand.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
We still think Seattle's in first.
I absolutely they're first.
They haven't lost a match.
So
we also we have lost some matches.
So Dave, how long have you been a Seattle fan, and how did you become a fan of the soccer team?
So we've been season ticket holders since 2014, and I've been fans of the club since they were founded back in the late 2000s. 2009, I think, was their first season.
Okay.
And we followed them all throughout. My son played soccer, so we were a soccer family, and we always followed them. And so we've the first game that I ever went to was actually an exhibition game of the Sounders versus Chelsea when Chelsea came on one of their tours around So that was kind of fun to see. But we had some nosebleed seats. And my son was actually at the inaugural game of the opening season for the Sounders.
Wow.
So he actually has a spark from the very first game that they handed out. And he was disappointed because the section we were in for the Chelsea game, we were sitting. And he's like, no, we should be standing. If you want to really take in a Sounders game, you have to be standing.
Yes.
And that's when we as a family went to our first Sounders game, we made sure that we sat right by the Emerald City supporters, and we stood the whole game, and we chanted all of their chants to root on the team. And my wife became the hooligan of us. So she's the one that loves to drink beer at the games and sing all the songs, and that not necessarily the PG version of all the songs either.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. I have a question. So we actually, in the inaugural season in Atlanta, everybody stood. But we've now become what, Roy Keane and Manchester United would call the prawn sandwiches type. That's the fancy elitist. We don't stand anymore.
That's
right.
lame.
I mean, the supporter section still does, but there used to be the entire stadium stood for every match.
So I would say it's at Lumen Field. I still call it CenturyLink because it's But the whole lower bowl, for the most part, everybody stands.
So Seattle plays at CenturyLink, the same stadium as Seahawks, right?
It's not called CenturyLink anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the same place. And usually for Sounders games, it's just the lower bowl that they have open. The upper bowl is all blocked off. But they do have a few full stadium games, which are just intense.
What's max capacity when it's fully open?
Oh yeah, it's MLS Cup in 2019 was like 69,000.
Awesome.
Something like that. So I was
Atlanta United.
going to say, I think we had the stadium record until Atlanta came along.
Well, I will say that, I mean, that's a beautiful stadium. Like I've actually seen a Falcons game there, the 2016 season before we crashed and burned. Pass interference on Julio Jones, or we would have won that game. But yeah, I mean, a beautiful stadium for sure, and it's a cool.
Probably because the Atlanta fans were not standing, Mikey Dobbs. I mean,
Probably right.
dear podcast listener, if you are an Atlanta United season ticket supporter, look to your left, look to your right, and tell everybody to get up.
I agree, 100%.
Like, come on, what happened? We had the whole stadium standing, and then people were like,
if there's one message we can get out there, it's stand up. Yes.
So that I think that's part of the Seattle atmosphere is the standing, and it's just so loud in there too. I mean that, you know, people know it from the Seahawks, the 12th man kind of thing too, but the Sounders bring it also. And when everybody is chanting the same thing together or singing together, it is super loud in there, and it's just it's crazy. The atmosphere is just crazy.
is it true that you can hear the Seattle Sounders game on the Richter scale? Because I've heard that in the stadium sometimes it gets so loud and vibrates that it actually it registers on the Richter scale at the University of Washington, where they monitor earthquakes.
I believe it. The Seahawks games do, so I believe that the Sounders would too. Yeah.
Well,
So now my other question is this. So the other pet peeve that Mikey Dobbs and I have about Atlanta United. So we of course have our songs and whatever, but we maybe because we're Atlanta, maybe we're new, whatever, but we don't have individual player songs.
Yeah, no.
They're all about the team or just in general. Do you guys have individual songs for players?
We do. For the ones that I'd say not for everybody, but for the notable players, we do.
Yeah, of course.
So there's one for Stephen Fry, the goalie. There's one for there was one for Roman Torres, our center back from a couple of years ago. The star players certainly have them.
Yeah.
Yes,
so Atlanta United supporters group, if you're listening, why doesn't Joseph Martinez have a song? By the time he gets back from injury, I expect you guys to have an awesome tifo and song crafted up. So great point, Dave.
Otherwise, Mikey Dobbs and I are just going to have to make up all the songs, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, you don't want
and
that.
Even if it has to be just Mikey Dobbs and I singing the song ourselves, you know, it'll be
we're not afraid. But one of the things about my Seattle football experience was, and I remember just being really jealous of that, like being on the train from the airport into the city, and then I stayed at a hotel downtown, and how cool it was to like walk down the street with everybody. Like it was fun being an outsider with my with my Falcons gear on. But I remember being like, wow, this is what a sporting event should be like. We really didn't have, you know, Braves. I'm a huge Braves fan, but the whole atmosphere of getting into the game is like that has been missing in Atlanta sports, and Atlanta United changed that. So when we had the soccer team, it started off in Bobby Dodd Stadium, which is Georgia Tech's football stadium. It kind of kicked that off, that whole atmosphere of everybody taking the train in and everybody had their gear on. And so I feel like Atlanta United kind of shifted that in Atlanta, where people are coming in from all angles on the MARTA, you know, and actually coming in from downtown, and it has that feel. And I remember, you know, that experience in Seattle, and finally getting that in Atlanta was a pretty cool thing to finally have. Dave, I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. But my question is, you know, so like I've been to a number of matches in Europe, and it's very local, and everybody are at the pubs ahead of time or whatever. America has much more of a tailgating sort of tradition. So in Seattle, do you guys tailgate in the supporters section? Do you go to a pub? What do you do before games?
March to the match. Every game. So you meet down at Occidental Park, which is kind of near Pioneer Square in Seattle. I don't know, a half mile from the stadium or so. And ECS leads the way with there's a guy with a megaphone leading with songs and chants, and everybody gathers in the park, and we march to the stadium together, and we're singing. And for rivalry games, there's usually smoke bombs, which I don't think are necessarily allowed, but they're there anyway. But
who's the biggest
it's a
rival?
Great atmosphere, though.
Portland?
It's a great atmosphere. Yeah.
Portland's the biggest rival?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
Absolutely.
figured, yeah.
I mean, it's either, Portland is definitely the biggest rival, but the Whitecaps also, the whole
besides
the Cascadia Cup is
besides Atlanta.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The Cascadia Cup is, that's a huge thing. So that's the three teams, whichever one has the best record at the end of the year, gets awarded the Cascadia Cup, which is handed from fan club to fan club, supporters group to supporters group.
So has Seattle ever not won that?
Oh yeah, they have. They have, absolutely. Yeah.
Because come on, Portland, Vancouver, you guys are way better than that.
Absolutely.
So it seems like, why do they even bother? Like, we just leave it permanently in Seattle.
So to say something nice about Atlanta. 2018, when you guys had your moments of glory there, you couldn't have beat a better team by beating Portland there. So how Portland got to the MLS Cup, we'll never know. But that's, as a Sounders fan, obviously we want the Sounders to win, but we always want Portland to lose. So thank you for doing that to them.
So Dave, what's your opinion on the quality of soccer since you started watching, Seattle and the MLS? Like, how far has it progressed in your mind over the last, 10, 20 years?
I don't know. I think it's, I think the best test, I don't know if I necessarily can answer that with a real technical answer per se, but I can give the cliche answer in a sense that you look at all these European guys who think they're going to come to the MLS and retire, and they can't stand up to the pace and the way that the game is played out here. So we love watching people like Ibrahimovic last year or whenever that was. He came up to Seattle one time because Galaxy really needed to win because he never plays on turf. But he showed up and he played at CenturyLink, and to watch him struggle out there and see some of these guys think that they could just come to the MLS and play. I think it's a challenging league to play in. I think the caliber of soccer is really high.
Yeah, in the early days of the MLS, it was certainly the case that the biggest stars were, washed up European players. Donadoni from the Metro Stars. Valderrama was in the league for a while. Like, they were these guys who, were amazing players, but they were past it. But they could still dominate the MLS. So I think that's a really good point, that the league has gotten to the point where, actually it was
Higuain just a couple weeks ago.
Higuain, who just said that, he came from Italy and he thought, okay, I can, ease up and just dominate this league. And he was surprised that he couldn't. So I think that's a really good point.
Now, obviously, I like to see the hometown kids stay on the MLS teams, and to see them get drawn overseas to go play in Europe is also a testament to the caliber of soccer that they're playing. And it's really it's mixed emotions about seeing some of these hometown guys go over there to play. But the fact that they're able to be successful over there is also a testament. Right?
So how does, so in Atlanta, we sort of have been emphasizing that we're a seller club, that we're getting young players, particularly a pipeline from South America. They're coming to MLS, but those guys, their intention is to play for Atlanta for a year or two and then go overseas. We had a huge success with Almiron, who came from South America, from Paraguay, and then is now at Newcastle, for example, in England. So how does Seattle, does it seem like that? Do you guys is that what your expectation is, that the players, or that the players are going to come to Seattle to then as a launching pad to go overseas, or do you think that they're just coming to Seattle to play in Seattle?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if I really thought about that. I know that we have a bunch of homegrown guys. We have some 18 and 19-year-olds who have grown up through the academy system in the Seattle area. But we also tend to attract a lot of South American players as well. And they tend to just stay in Seattle. They play out their careers here. So,
and you guys had a disaster, right? Because Jordan Morris, right, was a Seattle. You can probably fill this in, but he was a Seattle player, and then he went to England.
Yeah,
right? As like a loan deal.
as a
and
loan
he
deal, got
hurt,
injured over
right?
there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the worst case.
yeah.
Yeah, but we
Tore his
have
other ACL.
we got a young homegrown guy, George Bello, who started getting regular starts at 17. He's 19 years of age now, Dave. And now I think during the summer transfer window, there's actually serious rumors of him being traded to a Turkish team, I've heard.
But see, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I mean, I think of that if it turns out that we're selling to secondary leagues in Europe, like Turkey, and no offense to anybody who's Turkish out there, but you know, the big leagues in Europe, England, you know, Spain, you know, Germany, you know, Italy, etc. That makes sense to me. But if we become, I think we want to be certainly as good as the Turkish league or the Portuguese league or the Dutch league. And if we start selling our players in general from MLS to there, I think that's a loss.
I don't, but it's what's right for the player too. So and it sounds like some other English teams might have interest in George Bello too. The most important thing for me for George Bello at 19 is that he started his career in the MLS. And if he can at 19 raise his game, because I don't think he will, unless bottom line is unless you're playing with the best competition, you're not going to elevate your game. So he has to make a move over the pond to elevate his game. So I feel like if that's Turkey, that's okay. It'd be better if it was obviously another
But is the
league.
Turkish league better than the MLS? I mean, I don't know. I mean, their fans are crazier. You know, the big Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. I mean, it's nuts over there. But just outside of those two, I can imagine that Galatasaray and Fenerbahce would come to the MLS and they would compete for the title every year. They're very good teams. Yeah. But the rest of the league is not good.
Yeah, I don't know.